Manfred von Richthofen, a name that echoes through the annals of history, the Red Baron, a name synonymous with aerial combat and World War I. His legend was born in the skies, where he became a symbol of both fear and respect. His bright red Fokker triplane, a fearsome sight against the clouds, became a symbol of both terror and admiration. The sight of the red triplane struck fear into the hearts of his enemies and inspired awe among his allies. With 80 confirmed victories, he was the deadliest ace of the war, a legend etched in the annals of history. Each tally on his plane marked another victory, another testament to his unparalleled skill and bravery. Richthofen's story is one of daring and skill, a testament to the early days of aerial warfare. He was not just a pilot, he was a tactician, a leader, and a symbol of the new era of combat that was unfolding in the skies. Yet it is also a story of a man grappling with the horrors of war. The trenches below were a stark reminder of the brutal reality of the conflict, a reality that even the skies could not escape. Behind the image of the fearless ace, there is a more complex narrative, one that speaks to the psychological toll of combat. Richthofen, like many soldiers, faced the inner battles that came with the outer victories. This essay explores the duality of the Red Baron's life, delving into the thrill and trauma of aerial warfare in World War I. It seeks to understand the man behind the legend, the hero behind the headlines, and the human behind the heroics. The early 20th century saw the birth of military aviation. The skies, once a realm of birds and dreams, became a battleground. For young men like Richthofen, the allure of flight was irresistible. The chance to soar above the trenches, to master these new flying machines, held a powerful attraction. Yet the romance of flight was quickly tempered by the realities of war. Pilots faced not only enemy fire, but also the constant threat of mechanical failure. The open cockpits offered no protection from the elements or enemy bullets. Every flight was a dance with death. The romance of flight was quickly tempered by the realities of war. The psychological impact of aerial combat was profound. Pilots experienced what we now call post-traumatic stress disorder, though at the time it was often labeled as shell shock. The constant stress of combat, the adrenaline of dogfights, and the ever-present threat of death took a heavy toll. Symptoms of PTSD were varied and often debilitating. Sleep disturbances, nightmares, and flashbacks were common. Many pilots struggled with anxiety, anger, and depression. The fear of death, the loss of comrades, and the guilt of survival weighed heavily on their minds. The constant stress of combat, the adrenaline of dogfights, and the ever-present threat of death took a heavy toll. Accounts from pilots who flew alongside Richthofen provide glimpses into the psychological impact of aerial warfare. These men, who soared through the skies in fragile biplanes, faced not only the physical dangers of combat, but also the mental toll that came with it. The Red Baron, a legendary figure, was both a leader and a symbol of the relentless air battles that defined World War I. Many wrote of their struggles with insomnia, their recurring nightmares of burning planes and falling comrades. The haunting images of fiery crashes and the screams of their fellow pilots echoed in their minds long after the battles had ended. Sleep offered no respite as the horrors of the day invaded their dreams, leaving them restless and weary. Some turned to alcohol or drugs to numb the pain and find fleeting escape from the horrors they had witnessed. The mess halls, once places of camaraderie, became refuges where they sought solace in the bottom of a bottle. Medical facilities, overwhelmed by the physical injuries of war, also became places where the invisible wounds of the mind were momentarily forgotten. One pilot described the constant feeling of dread, the sense that death was always lurking just beyond the next cloud. Every mission felt like a gamble with fate, where the odds were never in their favor. The skies, once a place of freedom, had become a realm of fear and uncertainty. Another wrote of the guilt that gnawed at him, the feeling that he had survived while others, perhaps braver men, had perished. Survivors' guilt weighed heavily on their hearts as they questioned why they were spared when so many others were not. The burden of living with such memories was a heavy cross to bear. These were not isolated experiences, but rather common threads in the tapestry of war trauma. The collective suffering of these pilots painted a grim picture of the true cost of war, one that extended far beyond the battlefield. The aftermath of the war left scars that would never fully heal, etched into the very souls of those who had lived through it. These were not isolated experiences, but rather common threads in the tapestry of war trauma. The stories of these pilots serve as a poignant reminder of the enduring impact of war on the human spirit. Their tales of bravery, fear, and resilience continue to resonate, offering valuable lessons for future generations. The Red Baron himself was not immune to the psychological pressures of war. Despite his legendary status and the fear he instilled in his enemies, Manfred von Richthofen was a man subject to the same mental strains as any other soldier. While he projected an image of unwavering confidence, there are hints that he too grappled with inner demons. His stoic demeanor and calculated precision in the skies masked a turbulent inner world, one that was constantly at odds with the chaos of war. Some accounts describe him as becoming increasingly withdrawn and irritable as the war progressed. The weight of his responsibilities and the relentless nature of aerial combat took a toll on his mental state, leading to moments of profound isolation. Others mention his growing obsession with hunting down and killing enemy pilots, a possible sign of a deepening psychological wound. This fixation on victory and dominance in the skies may have been a way for him to assert control in an uncontrollable environment. Could the Red Baron's relentless pursuit of victory, his almost reckless daring, have been fueled in part by a need to suppress the horrors he witnessed? The adrenaline of combat might have served as a temporary escape from the grim realities of war. Was his obsession with aerial combat a way of coping with the trauma of war? The skies offered a different kind of battlefield, one where he could channel his fears and anxieties into a singular focus. While we cannot know for certain, the possibility remains that even the most celebrated heroes carried unseen scars. The Red Baron's legacy is not just one of aerial prowess, but also a reminder of the profound psychological impact of war on those who fight it. Manfred von Richthofen died in combat on April 21, 1918, at the age of 25. His death, like his life, became legend. Yet behind the myth of the Red Baron lies a more sobering reality, a reminder of the human cost of war. Richthofen's story is not just about aerial victories and daring exploits. It is a story about the psychological impact of war, the unseen wounds that lingered long after the guns fell silent. It is a story that transcends time, resonating with the experiences of soldiers in conflicts throughout history. The psychological impact of war was not limited to pilots. Soldiers in the trenches, sailors at sea, and civilians caught in the crossfire all experienced the horrors of war in different ways. The constant threat of death, the loss of comrades, and the destruction of homes and cities left indelible scars on the psyches of millions. World War I, with its unprecedented scale of violence and destruction, brought the issue of war trauma to the forefront. The term shell shock emerged to describe the range of psychological symptoms experienced by soldiers. While the understanding of mental health was limited at the time, the war forced a recognition of the invisible wounds inflicted by combat. The psychological legacy of World War I, and all wars since, is profound. Post-traumatic stress disorder is now recognized as a serious mental health condition affecting veterans and civilians alike. We have a greater understanding of the impact of trauma on the brain and the long-term consequences of exposure to violence. Yet, the stigma surrounding mental health persists. Many veterans still suffer in silence, reluctant to seek help for fear of judgment or shame. The invisible wounds of war can be the hardest to heal, often requiring ongoing support and understanding. It is crucial that we recognize the sacrifices made by veterans and provide them with the support they need to heal from the invisible wounds of war. This includes access to mental health care, peer support groups, and employment and housing assistance. We must also work to create a culture of understanding and support for veterans, recognizing that the effects of war can last a lifetime. By acknowledging the sacrifices they have made and providing them with the resources they need to thrive, we honor their service and help them rebuild their lives. Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, remains a figure of fascination. His story is a reminder of the allure and terror of flight, the heroism and brutality of war, but it is also a story about the human cost of conflict, the psychological toll exacted on those who fight in our name. By remembering the Red Baron and the countless others who have served in wars throughout history, we honor their sacrifices and acknowledge the enduring impact of their experiences. Their stories serve as a reminder of the true cost of war, a cost measured not only in lives lost, but also in the invisible wounds carried by survivors. The story of the Red Baron is a complex one, a tapestry woven from threads of glory and trauma, heroism and loss. It is a story that compels us to look beyond the myths and legends of war and confront the human realities of conflict. As we strive for peace in our own time, we must remember the lessons of the past. We must honor the fallen, tend to the wounded, and work tirelessly to prevent future generations from enduring the horrors of war. Only then can we truly honor the sacrifices of those who have served and create a world where the invisible wounds of war are no longer a hidden epidemic.